Welcome to the Future Tech edition of the Finding Genius podcast. Forget frequently asked questions. Forget common sense, common knowledge, or Googling for information. How about advice from a genius in their field instead? 95% of people in any profession are good enough to be qualified and licensed. 5% go above and beyond. They become very good at what they do, but only 0.1% are the geniuses of their profession. Richard has made it his life's mission to interview the geniuses of their fields in areas such as AI, 3D printing, quantum computing, blockchain and Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out on amazing podcasts with geniuses. Review us on iTunes or wherever you listen, and go to futuretech.findinggeniuspodcast.com and subscribe today.
Welcome to Future Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Juliette Lamar, and I have with me on the phone Mara Hittner. She is the Director of Business Development at MatterHackers. Hi, Mara.
Hi, Juliette. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm really excited to learn more about all your crazy 3D printers. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about MatterHackers and what you guys have there?
Absolutely. What I love is I know this podcast is really focused on future technology. What I love about what we're doing with 3D printing is this is the technology of right now. Like, it seems like it's the future, but it is happening. So a little bit about MatterHackers. We are the largest 3D printing retailer. MatterHackers.com is our home. We also have a showroom and office here in Orange County in Southern California. And we started about 6 years ago now. And till today, we are the largest desktop 3D printing retailer. So we specialize in the desktop 3D printers, the $700 to $7,000 range 3D printers that you read a lot about these days that are being used in manufacturing, automotive, dental, medical, in schools, making inexpensive prosthetics, making usable parts. They're kind of everywhere. But our company, we are a retailer. A lot of companies and schools and businesses like to work with us because we are completely agnostic. We sell 50 some odd different kinds of machines, I think about 700 different kinds of materials. So what we do is we really listen to what a business or a school or an individual needs to do with their 3D printer. And then we kind of help play matchmaker. We match people up with what the right machines, materials, and software is going to be to get them successful with 3D printing. And then we also provide phone and email support for everything that we sell. So it's a really unique place to sit in that for me, I work with a lot of our customers, and I get to see how these machines are being used in schools and businesses alike, and then really tell those stories to inspire other people of how they can start using this technology right now to help with their businesses and to make the people that work for them more productive. That's kind of a nutshell.
Yeah, no, that's a great little nutshell. So we can unwrap it a little bit. I love how you mentioned that this is a technology that's happening right now, and it has been. I think a lot of people don't realize that 3D printing has been around for quite some time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 3D printers themselves and the technology has been around since the 80s. And you still see, big $1 million, $500,000, $50,000 machines. But what happened, and the reason that we're seeing a lot more of these machines now is some patents expired back in, I believe it was 2009. So we were finally people were finally able to iterate on the technology and really get in and, much like, the early days of computers, make them smaller, make them cheaper, make them more accessible. So that everybody could start using them and not just people that were in manufacturing or in companies that could afford the technology. The thing about desktop 3D printing, and especially most of the printers that we have are what's called FDM, so they're the ones that have kind of a spool of plastic, of filament that looks like fishing wire, and it gets squished through a nozzle, and then you build your part from nothing. So with those machines, not only are the machines accessible and affordable, but the materials are also relatively cheap compared to the big machines that also have a place in the workflow. But for people that can't afford them, or for whatever reason they're inaccessible, the desktop machines are a great substitute. And especially now with the one of the exciting things about 3D printing, and again using the technology now, is the progression of the materials. So not only can you print with plastics like ABS and PLA and kind of some standard stuff, you can print really functional parts with nylon, or a combination of nylon and carbon fiber. We're starting to find machines that can print polypropylene, polycarbonate, and even high-temp machines that can print things like Peak and Ultim. And those are all machines that will fit on your desktop. Up to, I think the largest build volume printer that we have is 12 by 12 by 24. So you can print small things and you can print big things.
That is so cool, and just the possibilities truly are endless. So let's start small scale. Like if I wanted to have a 3D printer in my home to create, I don't know, forks or parts for, maybe some gardening things or something. How simple is it for someone like me to use it? Someone who doesn't have experience with a 3D printer, but I want to get one. What's that learning curve like?
That's a great question. It's pretty easy. I mean, I myself, I did not come from I did not come from manufacturing. I did not come from computers. I'm not a designer. And I, like many, saw 3D printers I happened to see one on a TV show back in 2014, and, got on the internet, went down the rabbit hole. And for me, like, I think everybody has their access point, so not everybody is going to need a 3D printer. I think we went through a phase back in 2014, 2013, where we thought that, like, everyone's going to have one of these in their kitchen, and it's going to be like a microwave. And then that didn't happen, and everybody got all upset. And I think everyone, when I say everyone has an access point, for me, it was just the creativity. Like, I just never really thought about the fact that people have to make stuff. And in order, like, I'm drinking some water out of a plastic cup right now, and, like, someone had to design it and prototype it, and then, like, make one, and then maybe that didn't work. They need to change it, and then finally settle on a design that then goes out and is mass produced. I just never really thought about that process. So I think that there are, as far as home use, I don't know if we're going to be printing our own forks, because forks are they work pretty good the way that they are, and they're pretty cheap and they're pretty accessible. But if you've got, for example, someone in your family who has some dexterity issues, maybe they were born with an upper limb difference, or maybe they have like a disease like Dupuytren's contracture, or just aging, they've got some issues with their hands, and you need to kind of modify the fork and make something that's a little more custom. The great thing about having a 3D printer is you could design something on your own specifically for that purpose, or you could even go online, and there are tons and tons of free designs that you can download that somebody may have already solved that problem, whether it's a custom eating utensil, or it's a piece breaks on your oven and maybe they don't make the piece anymore. There may actually have been somebody that has the same oven and designed a fix for it, uploaded it, and you can just print it. So for those like custom problem solving things, I think is a really good home use, especially if you have any particular hobby, like you had mentioned, gardening. Again, you can download things for free, or some designers have their designs for, a donation, or you pay a little bit and you actually make something custom for your use. And, it's just solving problems. And then also, there's also the flip side of it where, like, if you have kids, you want to print them, some figures from their favorite movie, or maybe even have your kids design stuff. There's some really easy, free software for both design and for controlling your printer. So when we talk about, like, well, how hard is it to learn? I think of it as, I don't know, I'm a musician, so I think about it as like learning to play guitar. When you pick up a guitar from Guitar Center, there's some things you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn how to tune it. You're going to have to learn to change your string. If you get your guitar and you play it for a while, it goes out of tune, you don't bring it back to Guitar Center and say, this technology doesn't work with this guitar thing. That's not the way it works. You have to learn how to play it. You have to learn how to take care of it. And there's tons of resources online now of people that are making it really, really easy to learn the technology. And then it's so exciting. The things that you can actually make it worth, taking a little bit of time and learning how to use it.
Exactly. And, you're talking about like medical devices, if someone has some kind of medical condition where they need to have disposable parts, instead of buying all those and having them shipped and the expense of that, they can print those parts. Or, kids who might have some sort of issue, medical issue, they're going to grow, right? So instead of having to invest as a parent in these things, you can just make them as the child grows and customize. I mean, that in itself is just one reason to buy it if you have a situation like that.
It's
going
a
back
dramatic
to
shift.
Oh yeah.
If I can just add to that, it really is a dramatic shift. It's this what they call the democratization of medicine, and people that are really passionate about design, and about solving problems like my kids need something to eat their cereal with in the morning. Being able to do that and having that be accessible is so game changing. And then what's great is that we are seeing a lot of these 3D printers being adopted by schools, public libraries, local maker spaces. So even if you don't have one at home, there is probably a printer in your neighborhood that you can have access to. And a lot of the schools that we work with, they want to get a 3D printer because they know that it's an important, that 3D design is an important skill to be teaching our kids because of all the jobs in the future. Like, you want to make video games for your job, kids. You like playing video games. You want to make them. You're going to need to know how to 3D model. You want to work in architecture or medicine where they're starting to 3D print CT scans to practice a surgery before they actually go in, or even just to show the family a model of what it is that they're actually doing when they're going to do surgery on their kid. It's really, really powerful technology to have. So having 3D modeling in our schools and then having the 3D printer as a tool to fabricate those models really makes lessons that teachers have to teach anyway a lot more engaging. So a lot of these schools, 3D printers are showing up in a lot of these schools. And another thing that they can do with them is if they don't want to get involved in the actual design, the schools are starting to 3D print these, prosthetics and assistive devices for people in their community, for local senior centers, for other students, for other teachers. And it really gets the kids out of that me thinking, especially when you're talking about middle schools and that sort of thing. It really gives them something that's very, very engaging to learn with, and then also have them have a social action piece as well and teach that young.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really empowering people to use their own creativity to change their own future.
Definitely.
I wanted to talk a little bit about materials. So I know that, plastics are used a lot with 3D printing. And where do you kind of see the future of materials going?
Plastics are used a lot, and they're quite effective for a lot of final parts, but also especially with prototyping. So for businesses, I think that a lot of major corporations, maybe in the past year or two, are finally starting to see these machines as not just like toys for the garage, but cost-saving machines when you're talking about putting them on a production line. A lot of you hear a lot about like metal printing. I think you guys just did a podcast about that recently. And additive manufacturing is very exciting right now, and there's all sorts of new materials that are coming out. And yeah, the metal printers are going to be quite a bit more expensive than maybe a $2,500 desktop printer. But there are a lot of steps between idea and sketch and print in metal. And I think that that's really where the desktop 3D printers get very exciting, because it is a way to have these machines on every engineer's desk so that they can do some prototypes before they can iterate on their ideas before they throw it on the more expensive machines where the materials are more expensive as well. So the plastics, I think, are really good for that. And you can also make some pretty nice final parts. Volkswagen in Europe is doing amazing work, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars by using a $3,200 3D printer to print jigs, fixtures, gauges, custom parts for their production line that are functional parts, and they make them out of plastic. You can also make them out of nylon. You can make them out of, there's composite materials like MatterHackers has a product called Nylon X, which is a combination of nylon and carbon fiber. And we see this used for drone parts, for RC cars, for, stuff that really needs to take a beating. So you can use that for a lot of functional parts. But for someone like Volkswagen, where their parts change, and to send out their new designs for jigs and fixtures, not only does it take a lot of time, but it costs a lot of money to get those parts made. Whereas if they have a couple of 3D printers, they can print those parts on demand. And even if parts of the parts are under more stress and those parts break, they just reprint that little part. They don't have to go and send out for a whole new jig or fixture just because the one stress point is broken. So that's just one example. I mean, there's so much innovation and so much creativity with businesses in how they're using desktop 3D printers. Again, because the machines themselves are pretty low cost and the materials are cheaper. And then, this is not going to replace your 3D systems or your Stratasys machine, but it definitely does help with the workflow.
Definitely. So if people want to get their hands on these MatterHackers, what's the best way to do that? And I know you're located here in Southern California, down in Orange County. Can people actually come in and watch these machines at work in your showroom?
Can, for sure. We love it. We love visitors. Yeah. We've got a showroom here in Orange County. We're open business hours, Monday through Friday. Anybody can email me personally, sales@matterhackers.com. I'd be happy to field emails. There's a few things that we do. We can absolutely you can stop by the showroom anytime you want or make an appointment, and we'll make sure that we have somebody to take you around, show you the machines that you're interested in, maybe talk to one of our materials engineers, because like I said, we've got some new printers that are going to be rolling out very soon that are high temp printers. So we're talking about Peak and Ultim and really, really usable parts. You can also email me to set up a phone call. We do free printer consultations. So if you are looking for some new printers, you're already using the technology and looking for how to optimize what you already have and kind of see what would be next for you, or if you're somebody that's just getting started, we have a full team of people that can talk to you about the technology. And again, because we don't make a printer, we're not pushing any particular printer on anybody. We really listen to what it is you need to get done and make sure that we set you up for success, whether that be the FDM printers, we have resin printers, we have CNC machines. We have a number of different solutions so we can make sure that you're getting the right thing for your application. And then you can also go to MatterHackers.com and just check out all our cool stuff. The other thing that we do in making the MatterHackers pretty much exists to make this technology accessible to everybody. And we do that by providing, the best line of machines and materials at competitive prices. But we also have a lot of content online, a lot of articles and videos about how to be successful with the different materials, use cases, stories from schools, stories from businesses about how they've been successful with this technology. And I think that that's a really good place to start if you're looking to 3D printers, desktop 3D printers, for how they're going to help with your applications.
Absolutely. So MatterHackers.com, that's kind of your go-to point to start it all off.
Definitely, always.
Well, Mara, thank you so much for joining us here today and letting us know all about your really awesome printers. And now I've got ideas flowing in my brain. I want to print everything.
You're all fired up, right? We want you to
I'm all fired up.
Print everything. Thank you. Thank you so much, Juliet. And thank you to your audience for whatever you're doing out there with new technology. Just keep doing good work.
Absolutely. Well, that was Amara Hittner. She is the Director of Business Development at MatterHackers.com to check out more about them.
You've been listening to the Future Tech edition of the Finding Genius podcast. This podcast is information only. No advice of any kind is being given. Any action you take or don't take as a result of listening is your sole responsibility. Consult professionals when advice is needed. Review us on iTunes or wherever you listen, and subscribe today by going to futuretech.findinggeniuspodcast.com.